My humble introduction is I'm an engineer who accidentally became a product manager 15 years ago. And I say this in all candidness because I never really knew these techno business careers at that time. I was an engineer, graduated from an engineering college, and thought that's what I'm going to do for the rest of my life. And very little did I realize that few years into it, I moved accidentally into a techno business role. My title didn't change, but my work changed completely. And that's kind of how I fell into the product, what we call today product management as a profession, as a role. And I've been in product management now for last 15 years, most recently as a chief product officer for a large publicly traded software company here in the United States. So I've been in the US for the last 20 years, but I actively teach and coach and mentor. I actively hire in India, so I'm very familiar with what happens on the ground, right? So that's a little bit about me. And this topic they gave me is indeed the most interesting and exciting one because of the changing times and the next 5 to 10 years, where the careers are going to be. So, how do you prepare for that today? Especially when you're an early career professional. So, let me define early career, right? So, fresher means somebody who has no experience from an industry perspective, and early career means kind of 0 to 3, right? And then from 3 onwards, you call yourself kind of mid-career professionals, right? And so the early career professionals, which is the focus for us today, what is the right options? Does it make sense to do an MBA? Does it not make sense to do an MBA? And if it makes sense to do an MBA for you, what kinds of MBAs are out there? Because the general management MBA, the way we have been thinking, we have to be rethinking. We have to rethink that MBA in terms of the outcome that it generates, right? So let me start out with a very, very important statement. I think if you look at every single CEO, they will probably tell you the number one hardest thing for an entrepreneur, for a CEO to do is to hire good managers, good leaders. And so everybody needs one. Everybody is dying to hire, and money is not a problem. Salaries have gone through the roof for this type of talent. But there is a problem. And the problem is the definition of the word manager, the definition of the word managing has changed. And it has changed from managing people, which is what used to be the de facto default outcome for a management word, to now managing business, managing products, managing growth. And in that journey for the last 10 years, it is very important to understand in the AI first world, the word managing and the new definition of managing is not about managing people. Yes, if you also get managing people as part of your responsibility, that's great, but it's not about managing people. It's managing technology, it's managing innovation, it's managing products, and ultimately, you're managing growth, growth of the company, growth of the revenue, growth of your business, and your own personal growth is attached to that, right? So that's kind of very important thing to understand and conceptualize that if you are interested in a management career, the very core definition of managing has changed significantly in the last 10 years and will continue to be this way for the next 10. Now, so what do I mean when I use this word, a techno business manager? What I mean by that is somebody who comes from that engineering technology background. And when I say technology, I don't mean necessarily software coding, but somebody who understands how to apply technology to solve a business problem. Somebody who understands the business side of it, which is how am I going to price this product? How am I going to build the go to market and the customer acquisition? How much money will we need to survive, and cash flow analysis? How much funding should we raise if I'm doing a startup, if I'm doing an entrepreneurial journey, or if it's an internal project, how much return can I give back to my management team for initiating this new idea? All of that is really your business side. And then the management side is, like I said, managing the process, managing the innovation, and managing the growth. Somebody who has the right balance of these three things are extremely high in demand. And a lot of titles that people will talk about, and I have a slide later to talk about the six hottest careers that I anticipate, now and the next 5 to 10 years for sure, and that industry is dying to hire. Like I am dying to hire, and we don't find enough people to be able to kind of do this, right? So uh, those are the roles that you want to start thinking about as you build your own career trajectory, right? So the techno business manager is the broad name, a label, but there are really six different industry specific roles, uh, which is the cross section of technology, business, and management. Yeah. Any questions? By the way, feel free to stop, ask questions, unmute yourself if you can, and if you want to ask that, feel free to do that. Now, there's the evidence, right? If you look at the future of skills, if you look at the top 10, top 20 LinkedIn skills that LinkedIn report came out in 2024, if you look at the Forbes report, they all will tell you that the most important future skills, if you look at the ones that are highlighted on the right, have moved up, right? While they were in the top 20, yeah, if you're not talking, if you want to just gonna go yourself, put yourself on mute, that way we don't disturb others, right? Uh, the, the skills that you see are moving up as the most important skills as you see the transition from left to right is further evidence of why these types of skills are very, very high in demand from the industry, right? So that's kind of an example of that chart. Now, here's what I want to kind of get down to. And I know it's a busy slide, but I think focus on each of the before and after because the topic was MBA, I wanted to kind of share raw thoughts of what an MBA looks like in a new age, in today's age, in the AI first age. What does an MBA even mean? The first important thing is the outcome. Like I said, the outcome of an MBA used to be how do I manage more people better and efficiently? Now it is about managing growth. How can this MBA help me manage that growth, learn the nuances and the skills necessary for managing growth? The second important thing that I see compare and contrast with the MBAs of the yesterday versus the new age MBA is the curriculum. The curriculum design was always created for a general management where one program generates many types of professional outcomes. You can be HR person, you can be a sales person, you can be a marketing person, you can be an operations person. So one program, one size fits all is what was happening before. The new age MBA is now a lot more specialized, lot more focused, lot more in depth, and hence it's more one is to one. So, in other words, you don't want to kind of go to a buffet, if I use that analogy, and say, look, I'm going to learn everything about everything. Because in reality, if you learn everything about everything in that short 2 years, you learn very little about nothing. And when you come in the industry, now you have to reskill yourself all over again with all kinds of certifications and add-ons. Why? Because you never procured the industry specific skills in that curriculum because there was no space in that curriculum. It's not about the brand and the quality of your college. It's the impossibility of packing in so much depth when you have so many things to cover in that particular approach of general management versus new age, right? So it's a very important distinction uh, to keep. The third, which I think in my opinion is the most prolific and the most important, is the kind of whole brand outline. Everybody was flocking, and I still remember my days when in the early days of my master's, everybody was flocking about the brand of the institute. Is UC Berkeley a better brand or a better ranking than University of Wisconsin? Is ISB and IIM a better ranking than maybe some other colleges, right? And I think it's important to keep that brand in perspective. But what is not important now is the institutional brand. What is important is have you built your brand? As part of that program, are you forced to kind of go create your social brand, your digital brand, your LinkedIn posts that you're doing, your YouTube channel that you've created, your projects that you're showcasing, your TED Talks that you've kind of been asked to do. That to me is what's going to get your brand up and hence become noticeable. Hundreds of examples I can give you where we hire, when we do a quick Google search on your name and we find nothing, it's essentially saying that, look, this is another general management, typical early career MBA who learned the theory but has never applied any of it. Because I don't see any evidence of that application. I don't see any demonstration of that skills that you may have built. And so it's very, very important to build your personal brand, and that's what's going to crack those interviews for you in the desired companies that you care for. The next one is learning methodology. And this is the fundamental shift in approach of how you learn, right? Back in the days, everybody was learning by listening, right? And in fact, many of these old school MBAs, they still have the same thing. There's a lecture, there's like 100 people in the room, in a nice little campus, there's a faculty and an academician who's kind of giving you the theory. The good news is that 10 years ago, thanks to Coursera, thanks to edX, thanks to Udemy, thanks to Upgrade, thanks to many of these online digital learning platforms, every single lecture that you ever wanted to learn is already available digitally on YouTube. You don't even have to go to a class to just listen in because that access was democratized 7 years ago, which we did not have 20 years ago, right? So it's no longer about the theory. It's no longer about absorbing and taking notes for what the professor is saying in the class. It's more about, can I have a coach where I am now going to apply what I've learned, apply that theory in a real world project, and can I get feedback iteratively till I get it better? Can I build my skills and then put myself out there as a jury, just like the best way to know whether you have business plan skills or not, put a business plan and go to Shark Tank, right? Go in front of a live jury and present and get some feedback. So learning by doing is the most important shift that a new age program and a new age MBA offers that is highly, highly desirable than just learning by listening. Right? And that goes back to the faculty. Most of the colleges that I remember, I still teach at many of these premium institutions. A lot of them, majority of them, are academics, folks who are PhD who are teaching, with pure academics. They've left their industry or never worked in the industry, even worse, with some industry lectures. You have to flip it. You want now a system where the industry practitioner, the one who is a CFO in a Titan industry, is taking finance as a class. The one who's a chief product officer is actually teaching product management. The one who's the head of design at Swiggy is actually teaching user experience design. The one who's a data scientist at Fidelity is actually teaching you data science and so on and so forth. Right? So you want a industry practitioner, with of course some academics, but the majority of them needs to be flipped, right? So that's kind of the delta between a before and an after, or an old school MBA versus a new age MBA. The next is examination. Again, theory based makes no sense. It's not a memory retention test anymore. Whether you understood the theory and then I ask you to write a paper and you memorize whatever you memorize and then you kind of pass the exam. Makes no sense. That does not create skills. That creates knowledge, that creates theory, but it does not create skills. Because skills is like learning swimming. If you use that analogy a little bit, in learning swimming, you need three things. You need first a framework and understanding of the best practices in the theory. So of course, theory is important, right? That's the first part. Second, you need a swimming pool. Just knowing how to change and move your hands at 45-degree angles, for example, in a swimming class, makes no sense if you don't have a swimming pool to practice that swimming. So you need a sandbox environment where you actually do real world projects, industry projects, projects which are sponsored and in many cases as paid internships, through these companies where you are learning real world stuff. And third, you need a coach and a mentor who's coaching you one on one. who's coaching you and spending time with you to make sure that when you're swimming in that swimming pool, that you're actually moving your hands and legs the right way, which you may not know when you're swimming yourself. So all three things are very, very important in terms of how you build skills. And that's why the examination is less about the theory, or should be less about the theory, and more about demonstration of the skill that you've built, and get that feedback from live, industry practitioners and hiring managers, right? Again, simple things like graduation with a degree, is usually how most people will celebrate. Whereas, in my opinion, when you graduate with industry experience, in fact, Canada started this many years ago, and I think United States followed that, and I think now progressive colleges in India are doing it, which is 6 months every year. In 6 months, you have to do a paid internship in the industry. It's not going to the classes. When you are in a learning mode, you are actually forced mandatorily to go work in a real world company. And so paid internships are a very, very important part of your learning process. And so when you graduate now, you already have three job offers. Why? Because you already did two internships as part of the 2 year MBA in the desired companies of your choice. And hopefully you've now impressed them enough that you now have more than one job offers when you graduate, and which gets to the next part, that you're no longer searching for a job. You already have multiple job offers thanks to those internships. But also, if you want to go start creating jobs for others, where you can become your own entrepreneur, if some of you wants to start your own venture, I've done that 3 times now. My first venture failed miserably, so I'm happy to share if somebody's interested what not to do. The second one got acquired by large company, so I was part of IBM, and now I'm on the board of several startups as an investor. And I can tell you, there is no better time. If you have the appetite of risk, there is no better time to start your own company. Right now, you of course need the skills to be able to do that, but you also have a lot more options available, a lot more funding options available in today's world, right? So that's kind of the outcome that you need to be looking for. Of course, salary is important, but again, getting settled for below or market average salary, you almost want to kind of look at the new age MBA that now allows you to get to at least 2x, 3x, 4x of that average, and that's very, very doable. I spend when I hire a product manager, for example, or a UX designer or a project manager, my starting salary is about 20 lakhs, 25 lakhs, right, and it goes up to 1.6 crores with a couple years of experience, it kind of gets to there. And so these are very, very highly sought after roles which get paid very handsomely again, because the skills necessary for these 6 roles that I'm going to talk about are very, very few and are very, very hard to find in the industry. Right? So I just want to kind of give you a compare and contrast is if MBA is on your mind, how do you evaluate these options? How do you evaluate these programs? Because everybody seems to have a great website and a great glossy brochure, and the sales pitch is looking pretty good. That leaves you confused when you have so many choices. You need to start comparing and contrasting across these grids that I'm kind of sharing with you here, so that you can start evaluating them objectively, right? Whichever decision you make, the point is, how do you do this in the context of a new age world? These are the 6 roles that I was talking about earlier. And pay close attention to these 6. Now, I'm not saying that if you want to do a 7th or an 8th role, which is not listed here, that it's a bad idea. That is not what I'm saying. But what I am saying is that if you are planning to do one of these 6 roles, you are absolutely in high demand, right? Product management. This is a fundamentally, high in demand role. Anybody who's like the mini CEO of making sure, like somebody has to decide. Let's say you're the product manager at Apple, or you're a product manager at Flipkart, or you're a product manager at, Caterpillar, or a product manager at Bosch. Somebody has to decide, what features am I going to put in the next release of this product? Somebody's going to have to decide, what is the competitive analysis look like and why customers will pay and buy and adopt this particular solution. All of that decision making happens at the product manager level, right? So very, very important role. And I'll talk a little bit more about it if you're interested in showing you the detailed skills that you would need to become a product manager, right? You do a Google search on product management, you'll find lots of good videos to help you educate that, right? Second, UX design. This is again a very, very high in demand role more recently than ever before. This person has to think about the experience. Why is it so easy to order things from Swiggy and Zomato? Why is it so easy and it seems intuitive when you go and operate a particular product with the screens and the interface that somebody has designed? Seamless, easy. You can find things exactly with less number of clicks. You're able to get things done from an automation perspective. All of that workflow design is done by a UX designer. Now, there's a difference between a UX designer and a UI designer. So don't confuse these two. They're together, they work together very closely, but UX design is much bigger than just UI design or interface design or app design or graphics design or visual design. Visual design is important, but you don't have to be an artist. You don't have to be, an amazing painter to become a UX designer. A UX designer is somebody who thinks from a customer psychology and customer journey. What is the fastest way to get this task done for that particular user? And then how do you then translate that using your Figma and using your Adobe Photoshop prototyping tools to educate your engineering teams, to tell your engineering teams, this is how I want you guys to build it, right? So that's kind of the UX design. The AI data science manager, one of the hottest roles right now, thanks to AI proliferation, thanks to ChatGPT 3 years ago, all of a sudden everybody's life is changing. Everybody's talking about AI, except there are very few people who know how to manage these AI tools, manage the AI projects, manage these AI innovation so that the techno business manager that I talked about can translate the value of that AI in the context of the customer. AI for the sake of AI makes no sense. It doesn't bring any value to anybody. But when you monetize it, when you map it back to a problem statement, when you map it back to a market problem that is worth solving, now you have magic happening because now you're going to change the lives of people and consumers and enterprises when you do and roll out that AI feature in a contextual way. So very, very high in demand. Again, not to be confused with a data scientist. A data scientist is a very, very technical, very, very Python, statistical modeling, coding type of job. I am not talking about that. I'm talking about somebody who's one level up from that and say work with that data scientist, but to then map back the work that they produced in the context of the business, context of the customer, context of the innovation. So that's why it's a much, much more strategic role called the AI Data Science Manager. The next one is pretty classic. This role has been around for 10 years now, 15 years. Very, very, hundreds and thousands of jobs are always open, which is essentially helping the entire team collaborate better, figure out dependencies, map out the project plan, time management, schedule management, risk management. A lot of that goes into the project management role. And it's a great starting point. Yeah, long term, you don't want to get stuck as a project manager. You want to go evolve from a project manager to a product manager. But it's a great starting point, if you, especially when you have good communication skills to kind of collaborate and manage large scale projects. Because you can have lots of scientists in the room, you can have lots of engineers in the room, you can have lots of product managers and visionaries in the room. But if you don't put a project plan, it's like the event, right? It's like the wedding event. The wedding event has to happen on that day, exactly at that time, with everything else kind of leading up to it. Somebody has to manage that. Somebody has to orchestrate that. That's what your project management is. The fifth one, especially for today's audience, those who are engineers on this call, you may want to accelerate yourself to kind of get into a more techno engineering management role. Not just an individual contributor, but how do you now manage architectures? How do you manage components of the technology? How do you manage the entire life cycle of the release? There's a lot of that skills that is high in demand, is thanks to Agile, thanks to different release management, product life cycle management, that this role is high in demand as well. And the last one, but also very, very high in demand, is what we call a business analyst. Somebody who translates the customer requirements back into requirements that can be implemented by your company. So a lot of companies hire business analysts, especially large services companies. IT services companies have hundreds and thousands of openings for business analyst and data analyst, right? So these are the six hottest careers, high in demand, that will remain this way for the next 10 years, that I would recommend you take a look at it. Now, which one is right for you is a great question, but that assessment is something important that you have to do yourself, or take some off the shelf assessments which will help you grade and help you figure out. I'm happy to take some questions if somebody wants to ask me, hey, which one is right for me based on certain background that you may have. Also happy to take a quick one-on-one 5-minute call later individually if you want to discuss in person, or over a call, right? So happy to do that. But these are the six hottest areas that I would recommend each one of you put on your radar, to kind of keep in mind. So I'll pause here and see, if this makes sense. Any questions so far?
Hi Pinkesh, this is Monica. I have a question. So
Sure.
I would like to know the difference between MBA in product leadership and MBA in technology leadership.
Yeah, great question. I would say MBA in technology management is a little bit more comprehensive, for covering all six of these roles that you see here on the screen. Whereas MBA in product management is very, very focused in one of those six, which is the first bucket that you see here on the slide. So they're both similar, they're both specialized programs, they're both very good approaches, and they will fall in what I would call the category that we talked about, right? The before the old school MBA and the new age MBA. Clearly, this both of these programs that you mentioned will be in the new age MBA, but even there is a much more deeper, for somebody who just wants to focus on product management. The MBA in product management makes more sense for them. Although, when you're early in your career, I would not say you should only focus on one thing. When you have 7+ years of experience, I think a MBA in product management makes more sense, because now you've decided that you want to go deeper and deeper and deeper in one area. But when you're in the early stage of your career, in the 0 to 3 years bracket, for especially, I would say don't take too much of a narrow view. Take a slightly broader view across these six, and then take electives in your second semester, third semester, fourth semester for product management, which is equivalent of saying, I want to kind of build my product management capability. But once you get exposed to all six, you make that decision, would be my recommendation. Does that make sense, Monica?
Yes, Pinkesh.
Yeah. How many years of experience do you have right now?
I'm currently working at Bosch. I have in overall 4 years of experience.
Okay, so then good. So you're over the 3 years of experience. I would say if that's the case, then a MBA in product management will make more sense for you, because at this point you have enough maturity, enough exposure to know that that's the path I want to get to, that that's the direction I want to go deeper and deeper. So in your case, I would say like a working professional MBA in product management, or an executive MBA in product management would make much more sense, than the full-time, or the part-time technology MBA.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Super. I see a question from Rajshekhar. Rajshekhar, you wanna verbalize your question? Rajshekhar, are you there? I see that you're putting a chat, so you're there, but we can't
Sir,
hear you.
sir, I have 2 years of experience. I'm BTech CSE. I'm just confused. What should I do? Whether I should do product management or I should do business and data analytics? Uh,
Both are good options. My recommendation is don't narrow it down yet, because you don't know enough about product management and data analysis and business analysis at that 2 years of experience, right? So MBA in technology management is probably a better option. You get in a program like that, see if you get accepted in a program like that, and then you explore by learning both in the first semester. Starting the second semester, once you learn enough about both, now you know. It's like going a little bit of it. Hey, let me taste a little bit of product management, taste a little bit of data analysis, and then figure out which one do I like better. And then your coach will also help you. Your faculty will help you based on your background, your personality, the aspirations you have, what kind of things that you have a higher aptitude for, what kind of work that you're producing, that we will see the quality of your work and help you. So based on all of those signals, make that decision later in the program. The good news is that you don't have to make that decision day one. In the technology MBA program, all six are covered for everyone. Now you choose in the second semester, third semester, certain electives based on your interest. So I would say both are equally exciting, both are equally lucrative in the industry. It's a matter of which one will you enjoy more once you learn a little.
Thank you, sir.
Mhm. Okay, let's see. I have a question from Palash. Palash, did I answer your question on the curriculum design?
No, actually, I missed that part, so just wanted to.
Yeah. Yeah, so the curriculum design, conversation, or the topic that I mentioned to you on this kind of before the old age MBA, the traditional MBA and the kind of new age MBA is the outcome. The curriculum design for a traditional MBA is more theory driven and more breadth driven, right? More breadth meaning, learn operations, learn HR, learn marketing, learn finance, learn accounting, learn all of these things so that every one of those participants who's graduating from a program can individually then decide after that, do I want to become a finance guy? Do I want to become an HR person? Do I want to become an operations person? Do I want to become a marketing person? Do I want to become a salesperson? So the same curriculum is watered down because you have to create multiple outcomes, one to many. Whereas the new age MBAs, like what Monica was asking, or now, or what earlier Rajshekhar was talking about, is the new age programs are a little bit more focused and specialized. And because of that focus and specialization, you can go much deeper and have much more higher coverage of that area, of that specialization. So when you come out of that MBA, the industry is now loving you because you have much more depth than the one coming out of a traditional MBA who's very superficial in their knowledge, in their understanding. So that's why the curriculum design is different between one and the other. Right? And then the by the way, the methodology of that curriculum is also different, right? One is more about learning by listening, and second is more about practicing and building a real startup, real product, real technology initiative in the program. So you're kind of applying it, and while you're applying it, you're learning from it, as opposed to keep on listening and then hopefully one day you will apply that in some project. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Yeah.
Mm.
Super. Okay, good. Any other questions? Looks like I got one from Mohammed. Mohammed, what is your question?
Sir, is it audible?
Yeah, loud and clear.
I am a recent mechanical engineering graduate with zero work experience actually. So should I go for MBA or gain work experience? I am a little confused.
My recommendation is if you can get an option to do an MBA, which also gives you a work experience as part of the program, which is what I really like about these new age programs, new age MBAs. Like I mentioned to you, what happens in Canada, in most colleges, what happens now in select universities in the US, and now I understand that the Institute of Product Leadership is offering this in India. All of these programs, there's a mandatory working for 6 months every year. Every semester, 5 months to 6 months, you have to go to a Flipkart, you have to go to a Microsoft, you have to go to a startup, your choice. And then obviously there's lots of companies who are offering those internships, paid internships in many cases. you actually get work experience while you're in the program. So when you now graduate from the program like that, you already have work experience. You're not a fresher, right, compared to the other one. So I would say, given that, a technology MBA type of program makes a lot more sense for someone like you, because you will also gain the experience through that program from an industry perspective when you graduate.
Okay, sir.
Uh,
Thank
now,
you.
now if you say, look, I am tired of learning, and if you feel like I just did my engineering and now I'm just done, I just want to kind of go full time, make some money, then it makes sense to go out and do maybe 1 or 2 years of work and then come back for an MBA. But I can tell you that from experience and from having coached hundreds of people, once you stop that learning train and once you kind of go to the industry and start working, it is hard to come back and change your lifestyle, right? It's just psychologically hard. It's like that gym. If you were going to the gym every day, every week, every month, you stop that for a few months and you say, okay, I'm going to 6 months later, I'm going to come back and resume with the same rigor. It almost never happens, right? It takes another warm up period before you come back to normal, right? So, if in my opinion, if you can afford the time, energy, money, it is better to do the MBA sooner than wait until later, because your curve becomes higher. Your starting salary becomes higher, which means your growth becomes much higher as opposed to kind of slow growth, which is where you will be right now without these skills. Does that make sense?
Thank you.
Super. Rajshekhar has a question. What type of paid internships? I'll let the institute kind of guys talk about it. I don't have all the full details, but maybe somebody from the institute will talk more about those. I'll tell you, as a hiring manager, I am definitely looking to get paid interns to do real projects inside the company. And again, look at this selfishly from my perspective as a hiring manager. I'm not doing a favor, right? Spending that 1 lakh, 2 or 2 lakhs or 5 lakhs to give you as an internship. I'm not doing a favor to you. I'm doing a favor to me. Why? Because this is the fastest way for me to evaluate how good you are so that I can then hire you when you graduate, right? As opposed to take a gamble, hire some fresh graduates from wherever, and then 6 months later find out, oh, that did not work out. Right. So this is a little bit of a try before you buy type of psychology happening. And that's why progressive companies are dying to get skilled, people from a specialized program like this for these paid internships, right? So it works both ways. It's great for you as a student, but it's great also for the hiring manager. Srinath's question, what's the best MBA for an engineer? I'd say MBA in entrepreneurship or MBA in technology, MBA in technology. Somebody, Satya, can you go on mute? So the technology MBA would be a perfect choice for you. And the reason is because, Srinath, what happens is that in an entrepreneurship, you need to have multiple skills. So all the six that I'm talking about, you may need more than one of those six in an entrepreneurship, because you are the project manager, you are the product manager making decisions, you are the designer working with the customers to create the flow, you are the data analyst and the data science if you're using AI. So you have to play multiple roles. In order for you to play multiple roles, you better have multiple skills. So having these cross-functional skills, very, very important as an entrepreneur. So I would strongly recommend take a look at the Tech MBA offering. Yeah. Okay, super. Any questions for me? Okay, Manoj has a question. What's the difference between MBA and engineering? Well, the MBA is more of a techno business. Remember what we talked about here, right? If you only want to become engineering person, you stay in the red bubble. You stay in this zone, right? You go deeper and deeper in your code, implementation, engineering, mechanical engineering, electrical engineering, aeronautics engineering, whichever domain you're in, civil engineering, construction engineering, you can go deeper and deeper in that area. But if your goal is to kind of become a cross-functional leader, where you have a combination of technology, but also now build your business skills, also build your management skills, then you need to be somewhere in the center here. And that's where an MBA makes a lot more sense than just to stick in your engineering career path. Does that make sense, Manoj? Manoj, you there? Okay. I guess another question that comes from Anshuman is, if I join the technical MBA right now, will I be able to shift to domain? Yeah, absolutely. Will I be able to shift to domains like finance and consulting? Absolutely. In fact, consulting, Deloitte, companies like Deloitte, Ernst& Young, PwC are hiring thousands of technology business managers. In fact, they are also one of the companies who are going to be hiring and doing internships and paid internship programs with this program, because they know that this is the kind of talent that they need to hire. So very, very relevant. Finance for sure as well. And when I say finance, you have to understand that in the world that we live in now is very cross-functional. It's no longer just an individual swim lane. It's a very, very cross-functional world. So let me ask you a simple example, right, Anshuman, and for all of you to reflect upon. Think about this. If I ask you, is Tesla, the electric car from Tesla, is that an electrical product, mechanical and automotive product, software product? If I ask you, which kind of product would you classify? And the answer is none of the above, because it is all of the above. Tesla is pretty much a large battery running the car. That's the heart and soul of the battery. So it's an electrical product. You can say, well, it's an automotive product because it is a car with 4 wheels. It takes you from point A to point B. You can say it's a software product because 90% of the functions are controlled by software. So see what's going on right now? A simple product in the new age world is no longer just electrical product, just mechanical product, just automotive product, just software product. It is a fusion of multiple disciplines that you have to kind of go and build and learn, right? And so that's why when I say that finance is not just about, computing numbers and accounting and foreign currency fluctuation. Finance is about GPay. So is GPay, Google Pay, is Paytm a software company or a financial company? Again, the answer is both, right? So technology MBA is very, very pervasive. You can apply this to any domain because financial products are also products. The technology used in Paytm is also a technology manager. The same 6 roles that we talked about are equally applicable to Paytm, right? And so think about this now as domain agnostic. You can be in any domain. You can be in agriculture, and do drones type of work in the agricultural context, which there are many, many billion-dollar startups now doing that in India. You can be in manufacturing like Bosch and Caterpillar and still use tremendous amount of technology management there. You can be in food and consumer. You can be in retail space like Target and Myntra and Flipkart and wherever else, right? So technology management and digitization is in every industry, in every vertical, in every domain. So you can choose any domain that you are passionate about if you have the right set of skills to build, in the technology management space. Right? Hopefully that answers your question, Anshuman.
Yes, sir.
Okay, super. I see a question from Abid. I don't know if I'm saying your name correctly, but Abid has a question. With an MBA becoming a fad like engineering once was, how do I decide whether pursuing an MBA or gaining industry is the right path? Yeah, and I agree with you. MBA on its own has become useless. Let me be very blunt. Like MBA to learn theory, the old school MBA of learning everything about everything, getting the theory, it's all a fad, right? It's all a fad. No, nobody gives a damn about that because there is no skills to demonstrate. You are very fresh, you're considered very, very raw, you're considered very, very, right? And so very, very hard to differentiate yourself. On the other hand, in new age MBA should have, and when I say a new age MBA, I don't just mean the MBA in technology management, whichever MBA you're evaluating in the country or overseas, any MBA that you're evaluating, you better have 2 or 3, deep internships, industry exposure, industry experience with real projects, working with real professionals, working with real hiring managers. That is a must. Without that, it is all just a degree granting machinery. A piece of paper that will say an MBA, which means nothing. Let me just be very blunt and direct, right? So there is a fad. I agree with you, but a progressive MBA, a new age MBA, definitely is much better and has still very, very high value. In getting into these techno business roles that we are talking about. So I would strongly recommend that over not doing anything, because not doing anything means what? You will take 5 years, 6 years in your life, learn it on the job, learn it slowly, and then come and do an executive MBA. Which means for 5 to 6 years, your trajectory of growth was flat or at 15% growth, right? Annual salary increment growth, as opposed to going very, very steep from the first day. So that's the big difference between doing it now versus doing it later. Doing it later is also fine. If you miss the boat, a lot of people miss the boat, right? They don't do it now and then they'll do it at 5, 7, 8 years. I teach at the Executive MBA program. The Institute of Product Leadership runs a very, very successful, for last 10 years, a program called Executive MBA in Product Leadership. So if you go to productleadership.com, take a look at that program. I teach in that program whenever I'm flying into India on the campus in Bangalore, right? So it's a Bangalore large campus in Bangalore where participants come in on the weekends and evenings only, because they're all working professionals, 5, 10 years, 7 years, 15 years, 20 years of experience. You ask them the number one regret. In fact, I encourage all of you to come to that campus and meet these people, because they're also students now. They're also enrolling themselves at 15 years of experience. They're hiring managers themselves, but they're also coming back to learn. They're also coming back to school to learn, as they want to get to CXO level. They want to get to CEO level, right? So that's why they're in the executive program. But if you ask them, the number one regret they will tell you, I should have done this sooner. I should have started this journey much faster, because I feel like wasted 10 years, 5 years in kind of going with the flow and taking it easy, and then just kind of, not have a ramp up. And now I'm stuck. Now I'm stuck because my growth is not happening. So my recommendation is, you guys are early. If you guys are in the early career bucket, you have an advantage to kind of get started sooner. So I would say sooner than later. Abid, if that makes sense?
Yeah, thanks for the answer. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I have Roshan who's raised his hand. Roshan, you want to go ahead and ask the question?
So, yeah, hi Vikesh, it's Roshan here. I'm graduate, computer science graduate from CMI University, and I'm currently working in EY as a digital risk analyst in business consulting competency. So I have about 1.5 years of experience, and I have a couple of questions for you. The first question being that my firm gives provides this service wherein after I complete 3 years of experience, they give an option to pursue tech MBA within the company. So it's sponsored by the company itself, wherein and these courses are provided by foreign universities, and so all top universities, and my firm kind of encourages it. So once I stay for like 3 years, the managers encourage me to go and pursue the tech MBA, because they tell that once you pursue a tech MBA, your progression within EY or within this firm or within any other auditing firm, it increases a lot. So I've been thinking about that. I just wanted to get your inputs on that. And my second question along with that is that if I wanted to do my MBA, not now, maybe another year or so. I've been thinking whether to do it in India in a good form, in a good institute, or my parents want me to do it abroad. So I just wanted to get your inputs on what is the key difference, from the pursuing MBA in India or from pursuing it abroad.
Great questions. Both of them are brilliant questions, right? So the first one is easy. Look, if your company is paying for it, absolutely it's a great idea on the surface, right? Or as long as there is no strings attached. So make sure there is no fine print. attached to it. In India, I've noticed that a lot of these programs where the company sponsors the program, there's also a bond for which you have to stay in that company for 1 year or 2 years after you're doing the program. So it's a great retention model. It's a great way to capture you and hold you in that company. And now, as long as you love this company and as long as you love what you're doing, makes sense. However, if your value in the market is going to be much higher than your current value, your current package, your current CTC in the current company, then this is actually a disadvantage for you because now you're stuck, because they're sponsoring it. There's a moral obligation also. Forget the legal side. There's a moral obligation for you to stay there, right? Because you don't want to take companies' money and finish the MBA and just disappear and go get a hike somewhere else. It doesn't feel morally right to do, right? Especially for me, I would never do that. And so your situation has to be evaluated in that context. If you believe the next 10 years of your life you want to be in this company, let's say Microsoft, SAP, right? You love the culture, you love the growth, you love the possibility of, then I would say use that free money, leverage that to do the MBA and stay there and apply that and grow. However, if you feel, hey, I don't see myself, going there and staying there for 10 years, then I would say, why would I worry about borrowing that 10 lakhs, 20 lakhs, or in the case of ISB, let's say 40, 50 lakhs, which is a higher amount, right? So depends on which MBA you're choosing. But I would then prefer to take your own money, do a weekend program, right? So there's also a weekend and evening program option. When you're working, you don't have to stop working. Everybody doesn't have to do a full-time MBA. It's hard, but you can do an evening and weekends program, right? Which means you are now doing this on your terms and conditions, on your freedom, on your money, which means now when a placement sale happens in the program, you will be eligible to go participate and get that new job offer. If the company is sponsoring your program, you are not going to be allowed to sit through the placement and the career cell in most business colleges, right? Most MBA colleges will not allow you. Why? Because the company is paying for your education. It's a moral duty of the institute and the college to also not create attrition for that company. So that's why you will not get access to networking. You will not get access to all the placement, the opportunities outside. So that's the pros and cons of both of those situations, Roshan. Does that make sense?
Oh, yes, yes, that makes sense. Thank you so much.
If I were you, and again, I don't know you that well, so maybe happy to set up a quick, coaching call for 5 minutes, perhaps after this call or later in the weekend when I'm free. Happy to spend your background and understand your background and give you more customized advice. But if I were you in that shoe, I do not want to use company's money because I know that my worth is much higher outside when I build my brand, when I build my skills, than what the company is going to be able to do. And I want the variety, I want the choice. I want to be able to go wherever I want to go. I don't want to get in this golden handcuff, in a captive mode, sitting there just to save that, 15 lakhs, 10 lakhs, whatever, which by the way, I can pay over 10 years. I mean, think about it. The ROI of an MBA, which I know we haven't talked about the ROI, but the ROI of MBA is very, very clear. For every dollar that I put in, so this is a general formula that we all use universally. For every dollar that we put into an MBA education, we want to be able to get 4x growth in 4 years. So for every dollar, I need to get $4 back total over 4 years. If you have that line of sight and if you think that that's going to happen, it's a great ROI. If not, run away from that program because it's not making sense from an ROI perspective. Right? So let's take a real example. And this goes back to your second question, right? Doing the program in US versus doing the program in India. I mean, look, I am slightly biased with US just because I've lived in the US for the last 20 years. I live in the US now. I feel that there are high quality institutions both in India and in US. But there are a lot more of those high quality institutions in the US than there are in India. So if you get a UT Austin, if you get a UC Berkeley, if you get a Stanford, if you get a Duke in North Carolina, if you get a University of Michigan in Ann Arbor, Like if you pick some of these top-notch schools, business schools, and if you do an MBA there, it makes absolutely amazing sense. Whether you want to stay in US or whether you want to come back in India, there is value in both. Again, not because the brand of what Stanford does or what UMich does, University of Michigan does. It's the skills that you're going to get because these institutes offer a new age MBA. I keep on going back to the same grade. You need to start evaluating this whole rethink your MBA is my number one message to all of you, right? And you have to constantly evaluate whatever you're evaluating in this grade. So a Berkeley or a University of Michigan is not just interested in building their brand, they're interested in building your brand because the way the curriculum is arranged, the way the projects happen, the way you supply, the way you apply for open hackathons and open skillathons, the way the industry connect happens, right? Because of all of that, you will build your personal brand, and that's the outcome that you desire. However, go back to my formula. If you're going to spend $200,000 in one of those colleges, or in the case of India, let's say you have a program that is costing you 15 lakhs. 15 times 4, 60 lakhs of additional money has to come to you for it to become high ROI. So let's say your salary currently is 10 lakhs. I'm just using a simple example. Let's say you're working somewhere and your salary is 10 lakhs. You need to jump from 10 lakhs to X lakhs so that over 4 years, you get that 40 lakhs back. Or sorry, 15 into 4, that's 60 lakhs back. You need to get that 4x return for your investment. Is the way you want to choose, whichever you choose, India versus US. Does that make sense, Roshan?
Yep. That makes all of sense. That helped me
Yeah.
out. Yep.
Okay, super. Who's next? Who has the next question?
Pinkesh, I think that we are at the verge of losing our time over
Running,
here.
running out of time. Okay, super. Well, I'll take the
Yes.
last question that I see on the chat, and then I'll pause, and then I'll kind of go over back. And there are a lot of these skill-based cards that will help you understand. Here's a day in the life of a product management. Here is the typical salary. Here's a typical career path, right? And so for each of these skills, you want to spend time in analyzing this. And again, the faculty and the coach, if you apply to a program like this, and if you get accepted into the program, the coach will be working with you with day one to help you assess these things as well. So it's not a big deal if you don't know more of these things today. That's no problem as long as you are clear about the end result. It makes sense. So I'll take the last question from Srinath. What do you recommend? Continue an MTech degree or do an MBA or directly do an MBA? I have very strong views on this, Srinath. The short answer is MTech is no longer, unless you are going to become a PhD or a scientist, or unless you want to pursue something like that, that you're super passionate at the deepest level, you want to kind of do a doctorate in it, no point in doing the MTech compared to an MBA. MBA allows you to become a engineering leader also. Remember, you don't have to become a business leader just because you do an MBA. But because you have an MBA in new age skills and because you understand customer context, business context, innovation context, you'll actually become a better engineering leader. So leadership role is where I would say your goal should be, and an MBA gets you there faster, and MTech will not. So my recommendation is between the two, if you have a choice, heads down, a new age MBA makes more sense. Yeah, did I answer the question, Srinath? Okay, so with that, hopefully all of you, make some good decisions. But the good news is that the world is an exciting place in the AI first world. The need for managers is very, very high. And if you are one of those unique people who can develop this skill between technology, business, and management, and if you can manage growth, forget about managing people. People management will come part of it. Absolutely, the world needs you, and there's so much demand for this that you'll have lots of opportunities and a great career growth, right? So, with that, happy to connect with all of you on LinkedIn. or set up a call through the institute. Happy to spend maybe 5 minutes and look at your case and give you more specific advice, right? So wish you all the very best, and hopefully all works out.